The Lantern of Grey Ridge. The light that never went out. They say there is a ridge in eastern France where no fire ever dies. Even if the wind howls, even if the rain falls for days, the light remains. Locals call it Grey Ridge, a piece of land shaped by war, fear, and something no one can name. During World War II, soldiers from both sides avoided the ridge. Maps marked it as unstable ground. Villagers whispered that anyone who saw the light would lose their way. But the strangest part? The light was always seen holding a lantern. No one knew who carried it. No one dared to find out. Until one man decided he had nothing left to lose. The return of Adrien Moreau in 1968. Long after the war ended, Adrien Moreau, a former French soldier, returned to his hometown near Grey Ridge. His body had aged, but his eyes held the same haunted emptiness he carried since 1943, the year he disappeared in the Ardennes and was presumed dead for 3 weeks. People whispered when he showed up again back then, he shouldn't be alive. He came back, different. Some men die twice. Adrien never explained what happened. Not to the army, not to the doctors, not even to his mother. He simply said, "I followed a light." Now, 25 years later, he returned to the village because the light had returned too. The light on the Ridgegreen rented an old farmhouse 2 kilometers from the ridge. Every night he sat by the window with a notebook and watched the tree line. On the 5th night, he saw it, a small lantern flame swaying between the trees. Not bright, not warm, just steady, unnaturally steady. It moved slowly, as if held by someone walking with perfect control. Adrien's breath caught. "I knew you'd come back," he whispered. He packed the notebook, a flashlight, and a revolver he promised he would never use again. At midnight, he stepped outside and walked toward the ridge. The first Sign forest was dead silent. No crickets, no wind, no distant highway hum. Just stillness, the kind soldiers felt before an ambush. Adrien knew that silence well. Too well. He followed the ridge path until he smelled something. Familiar gunpowder. But old gunpowder, era-specific. War-scented. The moment he recognized it, he nearly turned back. "No," he whispered to himself. "You took something from me, and I'm taking it back." Then he saw the lantern, not in the distance this time, but ahead of him, swaying gently as if someone was waiting. Adrien raised his flashlight and shone it toward the lantern. There was no person holding it. The handle hung in midair, but the lantern didn't fall. The soldiers in the Mastadrian took a step closer. The lantern moved back, slow, deliberate, inviting. Fog gathered around the ridge like breath on glass. Inside the fog, silhouettes formed, helmets, rifles, long coats, torn backpacks, wounded men leaning on each other. French, German, British, American. All marching the same direction. Slow, silent, exhausted. Adrien dropped to one knee. These were not ghosts. Ghosts were pure imagination. These were imprints, memories carved into the land by trauma so intense that even time refused to erase it. His commander once told him in 1942, "Some battles never end. They echo. If you ever see one of those echoes, don't follow it." Adrien stood up and did the opposite. The man with nitrogen monoxide facility. Fog opened like a curtain. A figure stood behind the lantern, the shape of a man, tall, wearing a WWI French uniform. But the face, there was no face. Just a smooth void, like skin stretched clean over bone. Adrien froze. He knew that uniform. He knew that height. He knew that walk. That was his own uniform from 1943. His breath shook. "No," he whispered. "You're not real. You're what I left behind." The faceless version of himself walked closer, carrying the lantern in its invisible hand. Adrien stumbled backward until his back hit a tree. The figure raised the lantern directly to Adrien's face. Inside the lantern's glass, instead of flame, fragments of memory burned. Adrien firing into the fog, a German teenager surrendering, blood on snow. A comrade screaming, a bunker collapsing, Adrien running, Adrien abandoning someone, a face he couldn't bear to remember, fell to his knees. "Stop," he whispered. "Please, not again." The lantern dimmed. The faceless figure extended its arm, as if offering Adrien the lantern. He refused. I'm not carrying that anymore. The figure tilted its head, not with menace, but understanding. Then it vanished. 6. The place-time forgotedring continued deeper along the ridge. He found something impossible, a section of forest where snow was falling. Even though it was summer, snowflakes drifted through the air like ash. He recognized the location immediately, the Ardennes retreat. The day he was buried alive in a collapsed shelter. The day he died for 3 weeks. He stepped into the snowfall. The war replayed around him, but not like a dream, like an unfinished memory forcing him to see it properly. He saw himself, the young Adrien, crawling out of the collapsed bunker, wounded, confused, frozen. And behind him, buried in rubble, a living hand, someone he left behind to save himself. Adrien clutched his chest as realization hit like artillery. He survived by abandoning someone he loved. The snowstorm intensified. The forest seemed to pulse, as if the land itself remembered the pain. Adrien dropped to the ground. I'm sorry, he whispered. I didn't mean to leave you. A voice echoed through the ridge, soft, trembling, familiar. I know. 7. The last light lantern reappeared ahead of him, brighter now, warmer. Not cold, not haunting. Forgiving. Adrien stood up slowly. His hands no longer shook. He walked toward the light. When he got close, the lantern flickered gently and floated upward, as if guiding him back toward the village. The war echoes behind him faded. The mist dissolved. The footsteps fell silent. Adrien walked out of the forest as dawn rose. The lantern extinguished with the sunrise. Adrien didn't look back, not because he was afraid, but because he finally understood. The light wasn't haunting him. It was helping him finish a story he spent 25 years running from. 8 years later, Adrien died in 1992. Peacefully, in his sleep, his diary contained only one final entry. The lantern wasn't a ghost. It was memory itself, still burning in the place where time refused to move forward. And on some foggy nights, hikers on Gray Ridge still see a soft lantern light moving between the trees, guiding those who are lost just as it once guided Adrien Moreau.